Hey there, and welcome back to another My Hero Academia Season 7 video. And today we're going to be talking about the latest episode to drop, Wounded Hero Burning Bright and True, which follows off from that big cliffhanger ending of last episode where All For One almost soloed Endeavour and Hawks, then tried to one-shot Jiro and Tokoyami. So it's a big episode ahead, it seems, and I would like to say before we begin that I have read the manga. It's all faded. This arc especially is just gone from my mind, so I'm flying blind right now. And so yeah, not much else to do but to jump into things. So no cold open this time, just a recap, before we leap into the aftermath of All For One's attack, which maimed our two student heroes. And of course, since these students are just relentless chads, after having her ear pretty much ripped off, instead of bowing out of the battle, giving up or giving into fear, Jiro just powers up and attacks him again. And we actually get this really cool moment where he can't break free of her sound waves because he's being held back by the quirk vestiges from the people whose quirks he stole. And is this a little cheap? Yes, but at the same time I still think it's a really cool feat for Jiro after all. Shigaraki killing Star and Stripe was still seen as impressive and cool and epic, even though he would have lost rather quickly if he hadn't been having an identity crisis at the time which prevented her quirk working properly on him. So yeah, this little team up they all do, assisted of course by the Vestige Rebellion inside All For One, it's really impressive, and it was really fun to see cool, calm and collected All For One kind of shit his pants. Maybe not at first when Hawks uses the vibration to enhance his sword strike and partially break the helmet, but more when Tokoyami powers up his Dark Shadow Ragnarok move to punch him in the face, and all the while he's being blasted by sound waves. Oh, my god, it was good to see some of the lesser used classmates get that spotlight here. It was a really unexpected team up, but I'm really liking it. And this leads All For One to speculate that his quirks are rebelling because he gave the OG versions of his quirks to Shigaraki, and thus he has copies, which seems to make his control over them much weaker and thus prone to rebellion. But it's not really strong enough to hold him for long, as when Hawks goes for the kill, he takes back control and unleashes deadly spikes. And I gotta say, this scene was really clever, really well handled. Because you know somebody has gotten hit, and so the scene teases you. It shows Jiro being splattered with blood, so you think briefly, oh shit, is Tokoyami dead? Then you see his shocked face staring at Hawks, who clearly went to shield them, and you think, oh my god, is Hawks dead? And then you see Hawks, and even then for a second, it looks like he could be a goner. His expression's downcast, kind of blank. They only show his upper body, so you think it's going to pan back and show he was impaled sort of beneath the chest. But no, because as All For One uses some of the spikes to reclaim the pieces of his Darth Vader life support mask, you see there was actually Endeavour who jumped between them all, and he's been impaled in his arm. And then he just casually rips it off and charges as All For One just feels like he's in shock. In shock that this guy keeps coming back for more, no matter what he does to him, no matter how maimed he gets. Good God. Like, what the hell? He just lets his arm rip off. I was in shock for that, I tell you what. God, this part was so good. And I liked that they let it come out of nowhere, because it's only after all this that you see how Endeavour managed to claw his way back into the fight, where basically his internal monologue shit-talks him and shows him his past. Reminds him of why he became a hero, his father's own death trying to save somebody from a villain, his inferiority complex, and how he knows he'll never truly be All Might or even Deku, and how what's kept him going all this time is pretty much his own bitterness and self-loathing, his disdain for himself, and so he powers up with that, I guess, at least that's what I think happened, and he seems to instantly cauterize his arm wound and create a big fire fist. This dude is just such a relentless badass. He's so cool. And I mean, even All For One can acknowledge it. As for the second time this episode, he shits himself facing down a man that just refuses to die, and only seems to be growing stronger and stronger the more damage he takes. And of course he blocks it, but the attack is so strong that it breaks his newly repaired mask, just from the force of it and knocks him back a fair distance. Oh, remember when Endeavour struggled to defeat a high end back in the day? Look how far he's come. He's going one-on-one with the final boss himself. And I really love that this is one of the times that All For One acknowledges that someone's put the fear into him and makes him remember that time that All Might just casually ripped off his face and rendered him blind. And this whole fight is amazing. Seriously great, and makes Endeavour look like $1,000,000, both in strength, endurance, and also intelligence. As you see that he actively switches up his plans on the fly in order to cut through All For One's defenses, all the while being gravely injured. So whilst visually it is just him doing punches and explosions, and roaring, don't forget the roaring, it becomes so much more than that in terms of the emotion of the story itself. And the music's going absolutely nuts at this point too, which just makes it seem all the better. This is going to be one of the scenes of the season, and probably one of his best moments of all time. And how when he uses the laser eyes, the fire laser eyes, to zap All For One's hand, when he tries to steal his quirk from him, oh, cherry on top. This is just amazing. Then he locks him up, takes him into the sky, and we get yet another epic and emotional prominence burn, which leaves All For One as a withered husk. And I guess he had access to those bullets that Overhaul made, which can reverse him, I think. I don't know. I'm sure they'll explain it, but his body starts to regrow its parts, so I guess the battle enters phase 2 with a fully restored All For One, but really weakened heroes. Excited to see what happens next. And it's only here, halfway through the actual episode, that we finally get that title screen. And we get left on a cliffhanger for the Endeavour fight, which is fine. Got to check in elsewhere, got to see the other battles, you don't want to waste it all. And so we go to the next most prominent battle, the Coffin in the Sky, where our heroes are doing their best to fight the disgusting finger arms that Shigaraki's been creating. And I say doing their best because it's not really working out all that well for them. They destroy some, but they grow back instantly. They can't make their way to the main body, and they just keep getting slapped around. Also, the design and the noise of these things, hats off, it's truly disgusting. Shigaraki, every single arc, seems to manage to become more and more filthy and gross. Just look at him. You can smell him through the screen. But yeah, in an interesting parallel to the fight we saw in the first half of this episode, we see a similarly epic moment from Bakugou. He gets his Endeavour moment too, and he decides that enough's enough, and he's accrued enough sweat from jumping around to let him use his new support gear that can shoot out rapid-fire explosions alongside his normal ones. And not only that, but he inspires the top-level pros to follow and support him as they go for Shigaraki's main body. And he reflects on everything as he does so. His growth, how everybody's working together to win this battle. We see his journey from solo fighter to team player, and then his story with Deku and how he sought redemption for everything that happened there. He shows defiance to Shigaraki, which earns Best Jeanist calling him by his ridiculous hero name, a show of respect, before Bakugou hits Shigaraki with his big finishing move, the Howitzer Impact. And instead of going to the immediate aftermath, we actually cut away here to build tension, build suspense. We see the business course kids have snuck aboard to record events for, advertising purposes later on, or just for historical record in the end. But also that from Bakugou's attack hitting Shigaraki's shield, it's made it difficult for things to keep running. And the Coffin in the Sky seems to be failing under the weight of all the tendrils, and from the explosion. Gotta say, poor Monoma, he's gonna have some definite vision issues after this, not allowed to close his eyes, and has to keep staring at the flashing, at the flares. Damn, yikes. As someone with poor vision who has to go to the optometrist a lot, GG mate, bad luck. And so yeah, it builds to that point where you assume Bakugou at the very least has landed a big blow, and he's gonna look triumphant for a moment before Shigaraki goes, nah. But nope, that's not how it goes at all, because Shigaraki has caught him and broken his gauntlet and arm. Ooh. That will never not make me cringe. Anime or not, a snapped limb is a snapped limb. When they go all floppy, it's just disgusting. And it's revealed that Shigaraki's really only taken a bit of damage to his face. Like, yeah, he's probably blinded out of that right eye for now, but he'll be right. A great fake out, honestly. And the heroes are all rushing to save Bakugou, which just draws them into range for Shigaraki's next attack. And also, I gotta say, he is strong enough to have killed Bakugou then and there, right? Just using his crazy super strength. Bakugou could do nothing, so why didn't he? He just tosses him away. Is that plot armor? But yeah, his body turns into Play-Doh again to make a new big tendril to swat them all away with air pressure, like All Might and Deku can. And at this point, it's clear that even our brave heroes are shitting their pants, because they can't even scratch this guy. They all get blown away, and we end the episode with our villain standing tall like an absolute badass. And I guess the reasoning for Bakugou still being alive is that Shigaraki wants to toy with him, keep him alive until Deku turns up and then kill him then? Is that what's happening? I feel like we're still an episode at least off from that happening, because the rest of our heroes have to get bloodied and mutilated before Deku arrives, so he has to pretty much fight alone. But yeah, next episode looking awesome. More of this battle, please, yes! The big three are here, the heroes fight on, they look bloodied, Bakugou apparently stays in it. Oh, it's going to be great. But for now, that's all there is, and so I would like to remind you that these have just been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the episode? You like it? Hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.